Hey guys, so today I want to do a quick review of my most favorite Yeti product ever. So this is Yeti Camino Carryall bag, and this is my most favorite Yeti product they've ever produced. I use this almost on a daily basis. It's amazing. Let me tell you what this is and what I use this for. So this is a completely waterproof tote bag that obviously has an opening at the top. So at the top it's not waterproof, but all the way from here to down below, it's completely waterproof, which helps you do two awesome things when you're, doing outdoor activities. It basically keeps whatever you put on the inside completely contamination free from what's happening on the outside, right? So you can put dry and clean clothes inside of it and set this down into the mud or a stream, and it's not going to get contaminated, right? It's going to be completely clean. It will stay clean like that until you obviously put some mud through the top, and vice versa, right? So you can put dirty clothes, dirty shoes, like mud hiking shoes, all that kind of stuff right into here. And if you put this inside your car, again, your stuff in the car will be completely safe from whatever's going on inside of here, because it's not going to spill out unless you obviously tip it over, right? So that is pretty awesome, and it works beautifully for any outdoor adventures, right? So let's look at the construction of this guy a little bit more. So the material over here for the whole entire bag, it's basically made out of like something that is used in whitewater rafting. It's very thick, very hard material that's supposed to prevent from all the punctures, and it withstands the time quite well. Like, I've had this bag for I think over 4 or 5 years, and it's still in pretty good shape, of course, right? So this is one layer of material, which is good enough, but in some places it's reinforced with more. So on the bottom, this top layer of material goes all the way to the floor, and here you have extra material on top. So basically here you have 2 layers of that awesome thick material. On the bottom we have a nice Yeti logo, of course, and here we have one more layer. It's quite harder than the rest. It basically gives the bag more rigidity and more stability, right? So that is pretty awesome. Over here on both sides of the bag, we have a grid attachment points. So this is good for anything like Yeti's Sidekick, to basically attach and have more extra pockets on the outside of this bag. Or you can just put something with a carabiner, things like that. You can just attach whatever you'd like to it. At the top we have 2 handles. One is the bars over here, so it's nice and easy to grab onto, and nothing is squeezing your arm if you're carrying something quite heavy. Or you have these handles over here. They're obviously quite soft, so they will squeeze your arm if you're carrying something very heavy, but at the same time it gives you a little bit more ergonomics when you're not putting something extremely heavy on the inside, right? And you can carry it multiple ways, right? You can either hold it by the handles over here, you can hold it by the top handles, you can put it over your shoulder if that's what you prefer. It makes it easy to get stuff in and out of it. Or you can just kind of wrap it around your shoulder, over your back, and then you don't have to carry the whole weight on your shoulder or in your hand, right? You just kind of move it all to your shoulder. So this is pretty awesome. I actually have all the different sizes of this bag that they produce. This is Camino Carryall 35, so this is the middle guy right between the other two. I also have Camino 20 right here, and Camino 50 right here. So it's the biggest bag that they make, the smallest, and the middle. So one interesting thing that I wanted to explain to you guys, there's 2 different designs of these bags. There's the older style and the newer style, right? It depends where you shop and which style you get exposed to. There's actually strengths and negatives, strengths and weaknesses of both designs, and let me explain you what they are. So this guy is the older design because I've had it for many years. What it has on the inside is basically nice and sleek material. It has right here one zipper, right? So you just open it up and put whatever you'd like in here, and it has the hook at the top to kind of keep the bag from closing on itself, right? It just adds a little bit of something so that you can kind of keep it closed off if you want to, but obviously it doesn't have any zipper or anything at the top to actually close it down, right? So that's what the older design has. The new design, I'll show you on the small guy. The new design added a couple more features. So instead of one zipped up pocket, you actually get two on both sides, right? Over here and over here. Because of that, because they have to create a pocket, which adds another layer of material to the whole entire bag, these newer bags are actually quite a bit sturdier, right? So they can stand upright really nicely. They don't really droop down, which is the kind of a bigger problem that you see with the older design, right? Like once you set it down, it can kind of, droop a little over here. You see, it just, when it's empty, it kind of tends to droop down a little bit, which is a little bit annoying, but not too bad, not too bad. So yeah, for the new design, they've eliminated that completely, and also they've added more organization to the inside of it. So you have little flaps on the sides of the bag over here, right? So they're again made out of the same material as the whole entire bag, and again, it basically makes the walls on these sides as well double layered, which gives it again more rigidity, and it can actually not droop down and stand nicely. One downside of these flaps is that whatever you put inside of them and whatever you put inside of the main compartment, there's going to be a cross-contamination between the two, because these flaps go all the way to the bottom, and at the bottom they're not attached to the bottom in any way, shape, or form, right? So you can see the bottom layer kind of moving around as I'm moving this flap, and it's basically a hole over there. So if you have something wet in the main compartment and you want to put something dry in these little side compartments, it's going to get wet as well. The same thing happens with the big guy, right? You just have a much bigger flaps over here. Oof, such a huge bag, right? So it's much bigger flaps, and they're good for when you're using, when you're putting just the dry stuff in. Like, let's say you have like towels, dry clothes that's dry, and over here you can put like a bottle, drink, something like that, right? They're nice for organization purposes, but if you're actually using this for more of its intended purposes, like more of a rugged, waterproof bag, then it becomes like a little bit strange, because you have that hole in the bottom that doesn't really contain any water, mud, or dirt, or anything at all, right? So it's a little strange, right? So what are my use cases for all of these three bags? They actually have each completely separate use case, in my opinion. So for this small little guy, what this guy is awesome for is when you have small, dirty, wet stuff. So let's say something like water shoes or hiking boots, things like that, right? You can put them in here, and they get, and the dirt is kept inside of it instead of making your car all dirty, right? Also, you can put a swimsuit in here, a towel in here, and go to the beach or go to a swimming pool. This guy also fits in the swimming pool lockers fairly easily, and it again keeps all that wet stuff nicely contained inside of this little guy. So that's my use case for the small one. For the middle guy, this one I bought the first out of all of them, and I've used this since COVID hit because we didn't want to touch all the surfaces, right? That's the whole COVID thing. I bought this guy to do grocery shopping with, and I find this is a kind of a perfect all-arounder bag. It works perfectly for grocery shopping. It kind of gets me all the stuff that I need in one shopping trip, and I can easily carry it to the car and from the car, right? So that's pretty awesome. And for the big guy I got for another very special use case. The thing is about this, guys, it's huge. As you can see, it's really, really big. So what I do with this, I use this as a portable change room. Yeah, I'm not joking. What I do is let's say I go pedal boarding, right? Or even better, windsurfing. I take the wetsuit after I'm done swimming in the ocean, I stand inside of this bag and take the wetsuit off me, and it goes straight inside the bag, basically keeping the sand off the wetsuit. Right, the same thing I do for snowboarding. I have a one-piece snowboarding suit. I do the same thing when I'm about to go snowboarding. Right, when I just got to the mountain, there's slush all around the car. What I do is I get inside of the bag. I put on the one-piece suit all over me. Right, I step out, get in my shoes, go snowboarding. Once I come back, I, again, stand inside the bag, take the suit off me, and it all goes inside of here. So it only has some snow on it, right? And none of the, the parking lot kind of dirt and all that kind of stuff, right? So then I can just get home, hang it up, and it dries up, and it's ready for my next day of snowboarding tomorrow, right? So it's a pretty cool use case for such a big bag. And of course, if you want to carry a lot of stuff with you for like a campfire, or even if you do bigger grocery shopping runs, then this is going to be pretty awesome for that. So now let's talk about some of the downsides of both of these designs, because there's a little bit of a downside. So with these flaps, right, that I mentioned, the flaps, again, I mean, I already said the fact that once you put dirty stuff in here and, dirty stuff in here or clean stuff in here, it gets cross-contaminated on the bottom because there's a big opening, right? So that makes sense. But another thing that's a little bit annoying is when you use this with a lot of wet stuff or dirty stuff, obviously on the inside, it all gets wet and dirty, right? With the older design, what you would do is you would open it up and hose it out, and just wipe it down so it's nice and dry and clean, and it's great, it's good to go, right? You can just set it down, it can air dry, and that's it. With this design, what happens is when you hose it down, you also have to hose down inside the flaps as well, which gets a little bit annoying sometimes, but that's only part of the problem. The other part of the problem is when you're wiping it down from the water, instead of needing to care about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 surfaces, right? You also need to wipe down this and this, right? Because the water gets everywhere, so that kind of doubles your work a little bit more. And when you're setting it to dry, like to air dry completely, for the big guy, you can kind of open the flaps and they stay open, which is nice. But for a smaller guy, it's a little bit harder because the flaps are very small. It's a little bit harder to keep them open so they dry out nicely, right? So that is the biggest downside of the new design. But of course, the upside is that they actually don't droop and actually keep their shape fairly well, right? So that is pretty good. The other thing that I wanted to show you guys is the pockets, right? So the pockets, first of all, the pockets are made out of cloth, right? So over here you have a little bit of cloth, which basically means that these pockets are not waterproof, right? So if you put something dirty inside of here, or if you decide to use this whole bag as like a bucket, which I've done many times, which is actually a pretty cool use case, right? So let's say you're in a campfire and you're done with the campfire, you're ready to go home, you gotta extinguish it completely, right? You can either carry buckets with you or a bottle of water, but you gotta make sure that it's completely died down before leaving it, right? Completely extinguished. So what I do, I basically take this bag or any of the sizes that I have with me, I go into the river or the ocean and just scoop a bunch of water and pour it right on the campfire, which works pretty beautifully. It gives you like a huge bucket that you can use anytime you want, right? So that is awesome. But when you do that, or with any other wet use case, you can get some of the water inside these pockets, which is not the most ideal, right? Because they're actually quite difficult to dry. What happens is these pockets is 2 layers of material just kind of come together and are glued at the very bottom. So over here, the little sliver that you get between the 2 materials, it goes it goes down into a single point, which makes it quite difficult to dry it and clean on the inside, right? Like you usually get some water in there and you really have to stuff the paper towel deep inside the pocket to make sure that it's nice and dry, right? So that is a big downside. The other downside of these designs which is both the same for old and new, is that these handles, as you can see on this guy, are very long, right? So if you want to use this as just a bag that you pick up and carry, as you can see, once I put it down all the way and the handle's extended all the way to the top, my arm is bent. It's not completely straight, so I can't carry it around. And that's actually the same problem with the medium size too. The handles are of course a little bit shorter on the medium guy, but because of my height and because I'm walking around, there's a chance I'll be rubbing the bottom on the rocks on the floor, which is, not ideal. Yes, it's tough. Yes, it can withstand it, but it's not the best usability wise, right? So there's actually a very easy fix for this. So first of all, with the ones with the longer handles, you can carry them over your shoulder, which works quite well. Probably not for a really long period of time, and if you barely have anything inside, it's not that heavy, it gets a little bit more annoying to carry it like this, but that is your option, right? You can carry it on the shoulder if you feel like it. I don't feel really comfortable like that. I don't know why, it's just not my cup of tea. But the other thing what you can do is you take these straps and you run them through these holes once or twice, whatever you want. If you do that on both sides, it basically shortens your handles quite a bit. It does look a little bit funnier, right, like that. I don't know how much it really affects the, how much weight you can carry with this. But with this way, you can easily walk around without scraping the floor with your bag. So that part, this problem is somewhat solvable in a way. So now let's talk about design improvements. Right, there's a couple things that I thought about that could be improved on these bags. So one thing, as you can see on the top over here, there's a layer of material, the same as on the attachment points. But then there is one more layer of material at the very top. It feels like a little bit softer material, which is kind of strange. Like usually the edges, you want them to be the toughest, right? So why would you put a softer material at the top? But let's just pretend it's the tougher material and, it's made to withstand a lot. What is the point of having one material here and one material here? The way I would minimize this or improve this would be to make this all one material, right? So you just have one material from the inside wrapping around all the way to over here. This makes it a little bit easier in the construction. You can still have material on the inside if you want more rigidity, but whenever you're dealing with dirty and muddy stuff, the more ridges you have where that dirt can sit, the more stuff you gotta clean, right? So I'd rather have just one edge of mud to clean versus having one edge here and one edge here. And this one is quite soft, quite small, so what is the purpose of that? I'm not understanding perfectly. It also might even eliminate from this top stitching, right, which also makes the construction a little bit better, a little bit easier to manage in the production. So that's the number one item that I would fix in the current construction. But what else can I improve? One thing that could be really cool, that's one issue that I have with all of these bags, is that this top part completely opened to the elements. And yes, I'm not talking about let's make this top waterproof or give it a zipper or something like that. Zippers don't really last that well, so it's not the most ideal way to do it. But let me just show you on the little guy over here, which is the Yeti day trip lunch bag that I already have a review about on my channel, so you can check that out. But here you basically have the material that kind of folds over the other material, right? And you could possibly implement a similar idea to the bags themselves, right? So if you have a little flap over here that's designed in a way that it would go over the opening, it would not provide a waterproof, closing of this hole, definitely not. But what it would help with is getting the sand in here, right? So let's say you have clean stuff in here, clean clothes, clean towel, things like that, and you're just chilling at the beach, right? As soon as a kid walks by or a dog runs right by your blanket, it can pick up some sand and basically expose all of the stuff on the inside to the sand, which is not ideal thing, right? Because sand ruins electronics. It's also annoying when we're trying to get it out of the towel, depending on your towel, right? So those could be really nice improvement for these products. But other than that, I love all of these carryall bags, and I can't recommend them enough. They're literally my #1 most used Yeti product, all three of them. All three of them have completely different use cases. If you have similar use cases to me, then these would work perfectly fine for those. Yes, they're on the pricey side, right? They start off from, I think, like $150 all the way to $250 for the big guy, but they're definitely worth its price. Like this guy, I've had for 5 years. And besides the handles getting a little bit dirty over time, it's totally fine, totally usable. I think I can use it for another 5 years easily. So yeah, this is my favorite Yeti product out of all of them. And yeah, thanks so much for watching. Yeah, like this video if you like this video, subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.